Welcome to Midnight Story. Tonight's story is the day the law erased me. I was still alive. I stopped asking people for help when I realized help requires paperwork, and paperwork requires a name. By the third night, I learned how invisible a person can become. Without a record to anchor them to the world, I could stand inches away from someone and still not exist. I walked into a hospital once, my hands shaking, my vision blurred, telling them I felt like I was going to collapse. The nurse asked for my ID. I told her I didn't have one. She smiled politely, the way people do when they're about to turn away. "I'm sorry," she said. "We can't treat someone we can't register." I asked her what would happen if I collapsed right there on the floor. She paused. Then she said something quiet, something honest. "Then we'd call the police." And I left before my legs gave out. That's when I understood something important. The system doesn't see humans. It sees entries. And I was no longer an entry. That night, I started noticing others like me. People who stayed in the shadows too long. People who avoided cameras. People who never spoke first. Under bridges. In closed subway stations. Behind abandoned buildings. We recognized each other. Without saying a word, one of them finally spoke to me. "You got erased too?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. He nodded anyway. "They don't delete you by accident," he said. "They test things on people like us." I asked him who they were. He laughed softly. "The part of the law you never see." He told me there was a place where erased people sometimes ended up. Not a shelter. Not a prison. A processing center. Unofficial. Unlisted. He said if you're erased long enough, the system tries to decide whether to bring you back or finish the job. I should have walked away. But when you don't exist, fear becomes optional. So I followed him. The building looked empty. No signs. No cameras. No guards. But inside, everything worked. Lights. Doors. Screens. A woman behind a desk looked up at me and said my name. My real name. I felt something crack inside my chest. "You're late," she said calmly. "We've been tracking your degradation." I asked her what that meant. She looked at her screen. "It means the world is already forgetting you." She showed me a graph. My digital footprint shrinking. Photos losing metadata. Messages failing to load. Faces blurring in group pictures. Even memories weren't safe. "Soon," she said, "people who knew you will remember you as someone else." I asked her why this was happening. She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "Because the law needs to practice." I didn't understand. She leaned closer. "We're preparing for a future where identities can be removed instantly. No trials. No noise. You were a test case," she said. "A clean life. No red flags. Easy to erase." I asked her if I could get my life back. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "That depends on how useful you are now." That night, I signed a document that didn't have my name on it. Just a fingerprint. And with that single touch, I officially became something worse than erased. I became undocumented by design. If you're still listening, if your name still opens doors, don't take it lightly. And if you want to hear the rest of this story, the part where I discover what happens to people who fail the test, then quietly subscribe, press the bell icon, and stay with me in these midnight hours. Because once you know how easy it is to erase a person, sleep doesn't come easily. They didn't give me a bed. They didn't give me food. They gave me instructions. I was told where to walk, when to speak, and most importantly, when to stay silent. Silence, they said, was the final stage. The woman explained it in a calm voice, like she was talking about weather patterns. When someone is erased, she said, the hardest part isn't removing records. It's removing reactions. I didn't understand. She tapped the screen again. You still cause ripples, she said. People look at you twice. Security cameras hesitate. Databases throw errors. She looked at me. That means you're still felt. They needed me unfelt. That was my assignment. I was sent back into the city. With no name, no money, and a task I never agreed to. Blend until nothing reacts to you. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time behaves strangely, when no system is counting you. I learned how to exist between moments. How to stand just outside camera angles. How to move when crowds shifted, so no one noticed the extra body. At first, people bumped into me and apologized. Then they stopped apologizing. Then they stopped bumping into me at all. It was like walking through water. That slowly learned my shape. One night, I tried something reckless. I stood directly in front of a man and stared at him. He walked straight into me. Or rather, through me. His eyes didn't focus. His body adjusted instinctively, like avoiding furniture in a dark room. He never saw me. I stumbled back, heart racing, hands shaking. That's when panic finally arrived. Because I wasn't just erased anymore. I was being overridden. I ran back to the building. The doors opened this time. Without resistance. The woman was waiting. You passed phase 3, she said. I asked her what came next. She hesitated. Phase 4 is irreversible. I asked her what phase 4 was. She answered honestly. Social death. She explained that once no one could perceive me consciously, the law wouldn't need to suppress me anymore. I wouldn't violate systems. I wouldn't trigger errors. I would simply exist, outside consequence. No arrest. No protection. No accountability. Perfect. I asked her if anyone had ever come back. She said yes. Rarely. I asked her how. She closed the file. By becoming necessary. They needed erased people. For things that couldn't exist on paper. Witnesses to events that never officially happened. Messengers. Observers. Cleaners. People who could move through the world without leaving fingerprints on reality. I said no. I told her I wanted my life back. She looked at me, like I'd asked to reverse gravity. Your life has already been recycled, she said. She showed me something on the screen. My old job filled. My apartment occupied. My name assigned to a newborn in another state. The law hates waste. I felt something break quietly inside me. They gave me one last choice. Disappear completely. Or work. I took the badge they offered me. It didn't have a name. Just a symbol. That night, I followed my first assignment. I stood in a courtroom. While a trial took place that would never be recorded. No cameras. No transcripts. Only erased people in the gallery. Only erased people on the jury. The defendant looked confused. Terrified. He kept saying he didn't understand. Why no one could remember his lawyer's name. I understood perfectly. As the verdict was delivered, I realized the truth. Justice doesn't need witnesses. It needs silence. And people like me, we're becoming very good at it. If you're listening right now, and you feel like this story is sitting too close to reality, that's not an accident. Stories like this don't spread loudly. They drift. So if you want to stay with me until the very end of this midnight mystery, subscribe quietly, press the bell icon, and don't look away. Because the story isn't about how I disappeared. It's about what happens when the law decides it needs to erase you next. Good night. Sleep carefully.